I know the whole world believes you are locked into episode 154 of Draped in Gold, your one-stop shop for NXT content all around the world. It's me, your host, Flobo Boyce, but as always, I am not alone. I'm being joined by a guy who I believe in once every 2 or 3 weeks or so, give or take, the real Jack Farmer.
Say my name and I'll say, what do you want? Why do you keep saying my name?
Get over here. Get over here. What are you doing?
Get to the point already. Why do you keep bugging me?
How you doing, man? It's been a long week.
It has been a long week. I have, to get a little personal information, I have adopted a little dog, and I'm telling you, I fostered this little puppy, and she was just an adorable, sweet little thing. As soon as I signed the paperwork, she became a monster. She became an absolute
feels like wigging
terror.
the table, like the official.
Yeah. Man, exactly. It was like that. All she wanted to do was snuggle and be nice. And now I signed the papers. My ankles have been bit so many times.
Dude, I knew. You're like, I'm fostering this dog. In the picture, she's like, foster for now.
Yeah, I am wrapped around her little paw. Whatever she wants, she gets.
What's her name? You ever ask?
Her name is Bree. That was the name that she was fostered under. And I spent 2 weeks calling her that, and it was just too hard to change it. So her full name is now Bree Provolone Munster. And it's nice to have her.
You didn't have to make it cheesy. I did too. No! I hate this. Goodbye, everybody. Well, as for me, I was in Las Vegas last weekend, and last Sunday, I don't know if you know this, it was the hottest day ever recorded in Las Vegas, 121 degrees. Can you believe that?
Man, heat wave wasn't in Toronto. Heat wave was in Vegas, man. That's insane. At least Vegas is the greatest in the world at once you're inside, you have no idea what the temperature is outside.
Absolutely. That AC is on point, but you could tell it was so hot that if you weren't wearing natural materials like if you're wearing polyester, you can feel it burn. Like you feel it starting to melt. Oh, it was awful.
And Vegas is dangerous as one of those places where, though, if you are outside, you're like, oh, let's go to that place. We'll just walk over there real quickly. And it's not quickly. It's a very long walk.
I only walk by myself because I know the high sweat quotient and BO factor is not worth it, you know?
Yeah. The first time I went there, man, I was such a fool. I was like, I could see where I want to go from here. That's a quick walk. But no, it'll be forever away. It just looks close because of desert. I don't know. Vegas is weird. It totally messes up your perceptions of time and reality.
Is he coming?
Am I coming to Vegas?
Yeah, you sounds like you love it. Like it's hot and you can't know what time it is. It's a long place to walk. Sounds like you love the place.
I do. Yeah, it's one of those places. It stresses me out, but once you're there, you're like, this place is magical. This is the Magic Kingdom. Sorry, Disney. This is it, man. This is incredible. And then you leave broken.
Human.
You show up with all these hopes and dreams, and you're just like, man, there's parties everywhere. There's good times everywhere. Throw the money around. And then 2 days later, you get thrown out like DJ Jazzy Jeff from Uncle Phil. And you're left with nothing.
Yeah. Shout out to the Vegas Tourism Board. They're not going to sponsor our show after that. Let's get into NXT, man. And I know one thing led to another, but let's talk about the main event because that was the most social media moment of the evening. It was a tag team match, player, but we thought it was going to be a handicap match with Javon Evans being injured, which we'll get to in a minute. But it was Ethan Page and Sean Spears, both former, well, not one is a former number 1 contender, one is a current NXT champion against Trick Williams and, can you believe it, Joe Hendry. Now, yesterday on the Wink NXT After Show, my broadcast colleague, George Hermosa, was a bit annoyed with the amount of teases of Joe Hendry's appearance, but I was on board. Thoughts about Joe Hendry in this match and thoughts about the match itself?
The thing with Joe Hendry is there's a lot of people that speak about him and they say his name and he appears, but it's not just whether or not you like him. It's whether or not you believe in Joe Hendry. And when that music hits and the people sing and he turns around, I do not believe in Joe Hendry. I see what you are, Joe Hendry. You're a snake oil salesman, and I don't appreciate the fact that you butted in to NXT and you butted in to the champs match, Ethan Page's match, where you weren't invited and you didn't belong. Joe Hendry, I don't believe in you. I don't even like you.
I thought you'd be fine with this because for weeks you were telling me how bad Javon Evans was and how Trick and Javon were colluding against Ethan Page and Shawn Spears, but you can't call collusion now, and now you're not even happy that Joe Hendry, all the way from the TNA unallowed window and forbidden door, is here in the CWC?
I think Joe Hendry is nothing but evidence, nothing but proof that nobody in NXT likes Trick Williams, and everybody in NXT saw exactly what he was doing to Javon Evans, and that's why nobody wanted to be his partner, and he had to go to TNA. He had to go somewhere else to find someone who was so full of himself that he didn't see the fact that Trick was just using him, and now, again, butting into where he doesn't belong. I will not stand for Joe Hendry coming in here trying to force belief of him on me.
Force belief of, he's not a missionary. You could just okay. So okay, let me ask a question though. At the end of NXT Heatwave, we saw the Joe Hendry tease and reveal, which begs the question: if Javon Evans was healthy enough to compete, what would be the Joe Hendry effect, if you will? But now you got me thinking. You made me think that he may be a criminal mastermind, making sure he is inserted into the main event. Maybe I don't believe in Joe Hendry at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him a mastermind. I just call him a criminal. Get me photos of the Spider-Man.
J. Jonah, Jack Farmer. That's what the match itself, though. The match itself was cool, right? Who moves and holes and flim flams and pins.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun stuff happening. I respect Oro Mensah standing by his word. I respect Oro Mensah for trying to do what he said he was going to do. But look, this is the era of ego. Ethan Page, I mean, you see that championship around a real champion's shoulders. I like how earlier in the night he says, look, I'm going to defend this championship from outside invaders like a TNA. Of course, Ethan Page, like me, can't stand these TNA folks way better than these TNA folks. Ethan Page never sully himself with those three letters, but he'll stand as our guardian against them. I appreciate you, Ethan Page.
Well, first of all, TNA was the former employer of Ethan Page. Like he used to. I mean, he was associated at one point.
I'm looking at his resume here. I see.
You have his resume.
I see Impact. I don't see these three letters you're referring to.
But Impact. Okay, all right. Let's talk about the promo because, frankly, Impact and TNA are two different entities now. So my man Jack Farmer. And start off that tonight with the Ethan Page era. Well, he called it the era of ego. Vic called it the ego era. It's going to be a new chapter here in NXT, even though he acknowledged the way he won was a bit unorthodox. He believed he was going to win the match anyway. Now, Vic Joseph had mentioned that Ethan Page's ascent to the top of the NXT card was the quickest. 40 days is all it took. Do you think he can hold that title for that long or more?
Oh, absolutely. This is an era. Whether you call it the era of ego or the ego era, this is an era. This is going to take some time. He's going to hold that championship for a while. And you talk about unorthodox ways that Ethan Page could have won this matchup. I don't call it unorthodox. I call it fate. I call it destiny. It was written in the stars that this guy was going to be a champion. He couldn't have not won the championship if he wanted to. This is his destiny. Ethan Page. He's the greatest wrestler in NXT right now. He is the champion. I think if you asked 100 fans of NXT, 100 of them would say that Ethan Page is the face of the brand, the first person you think of when you think of NXT. Maybe 99 out of 100 if Trick Williams is answering the question. But everyone else, I think we all agree. This was something that was written in the stars. Ethan Page is champion, and that's why things went the way they did.
Quick question. On a scale of 1 to 10, thoughts about Ethan Page's theme song? Ego.
I love it. It's one of the best they've come out with in recent times. Fair enough. I'm trying to think of the recent new music, but come on. Ego. It's cool. I love it.
It fits him. I'm with it. All right. So Trick Williams with the defeat on Sunday at Heatwave. has his reign recognized as 74 days or 75, depending on the taping schedule. Do you consider Trick Williams a transitional champion?
I don't like the phrase transitional champion.
But tough. You consider him a transitional champion? Okay, whatever.
I don't. I think he was someone that he won the championship from one of the greatest to ever do it, Carmelo Hayes. He was someone who had incredible defenses against some very tough competition. It wasn't as long maybe as a Roman Reigns title reign, but I think his reign was a definitive one that stands on its own. I wouldn't call him transitional.
Oh, well, before I forget, happy birthday to Vic Joseph, who's in my notes. Celebrated birthday this year. He is a astrological Cancer. Just want to make sure. Yeah. You're a Cancer.
As a Cancer myself, I got to say that's the worst one to be, because either you're a Cancer or you're a crab. Neither is good.
This is why I get so upset when someone's like, it's Gemini season, because it's Cancer season. It's not nearly as cool. Like, it sounds terrible.
It's Cancer season.
It's like, oh my gosh. Have you no decorum, sir?
Are you in a good mood? No, I'm a crab.
Right. Don't come to my house. It's a shell. But let's talk about the reason why Javon Evans wasn't allowed or wasn't clear to compete in tonight's main event. It was Brooks Jensen, man. Last week, Shawn Michaels came out for the first time since giving the general manager role to Ava and say, we're going to have a sit down. And Ava did. Hey, look, we're going to release you, Brooks. You've been attacking people, but some friends stuck their neck out for you, which we've come to know was Josh Briggs. But Brooks Jensen, in an attempt to get himself on the map even more than having the GM stare him in the face, decides to attack Javon Evans backstage. Now, I know this isn't the best way to get yourself recognized, but is Brooks Jensen onto something here?
A lot of decisions were made. And when you make a decision, it's either a good decision or it's a mistake. And of all the decisions that were made, one person made a huge mistake. And it's not Brooks Jensen.
What?
It's not Ava. It's not Shawn Michaels. It's Josh Briggs. What are you doing? Vouching for anybody in NXT. I mean, come on. Have you seen that locker room? It's a bunch of nut jobs. You're going to vouch for Brooks Jensen? Of course that's going to go wrong, Josh Briggs. You never stick your neck out for anybody, especially someone who used to be a friend. You're kidding me right now. Are you Ridge Holland? What kind of bad mistakes are you making here? Of course this went and bit him in the butt. This is exactly what happens when you stick your neck out for a friend.
I actually agree with you. Do not stick your neck out for anybody. But I got to say this, though. I mean, the reason why Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen were friends in the first place is that they had a kinship for loving a fight. And sometimes you see someone fighting people, showing their personality. You go, well, that's the reason why I fell in love, hung out with the guy in the first place. Why not say, I'm going to do one token of friendship to say, hey, look, don't get yourself fired.
Then I double down on what I say. Josh Briggs has no reason to be upset. Hey, you're someone who really likes to fight. I'm going to vouch for you. Don't go getting in fights. What? Come on.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So Brooks Jensen is a loose cannon, and we have a lot of those in NXT. But yeah, attacking Javon Evans to me was very, very smart. Because here's Javon Evans, a former number one contender, the number one contender, now has a grudge match, and that's how he gets up on the map. And I wonder how long this lasts, because Ava could see that and cut him or release him, but she chose not to as well. So I'm a little confused what's going on Brooks Jensen's side.
Well, Brooks Jensen was smart in attacking Javon Evans. I agree with you. This is exactly how you get recognized and exactly how you get noticed. And I think that because Javon Evans is still so young and still so new to NXT, probably didn't see it coming. I think anyone who's been there for over a year knows that if you see someone backstage, run, because you're going to get attacked. That's just what happens when you're behind the curtain at NXT. Whether we've learned, it used to just be the parking lot, but ever since Ava took over, it's really spread just about everywhere in the arena. An attack can happen. So the fact that Javon Evans didn't see Brooks Jensen coming over and not say, I better defend myself, I think speaks to his still being a little green. You know what I mean?
This brings us to this week's general manager pick'em. The Green Menace, Brooks Jensen, has been on an absolute tear backstage. Welcome to General Manager Pick'ems, where I ask my broadcast colleague Jack Farmer questions as if he was general manager of NXT, which is definitely a bad decision. But Imagine this, after attack of Javon Evans, ruining the main event for some people and enhancing it for others. You get a phone call. It's from Ava. She goes, I want vacation because Jack Farmer says I'm the worst GM ever. You're in charge. You got a call from SmackDown or Raw for an offer to ship out Brooks Jensen for somebody in return. Do you take the deal? And if so, who do you trade for?
I would take the deal. I think clearly the relationship is toxic with Brooks Jensen. So I would absolutely want to trade him out. Now, as far as who I could get for him, I'd try to get as big of a pick as I could. Cody Rhodes, what are you doing? Are you busy? Of course, I'm going to try to finagle my biggest opportunity out of there. But I think as I'm looking at this, I would say to myself, Brooks Jensen's a problem. Josh Briggs stuck his neck out. I'm going to package them together, and I'm going to try to find a way to get a tag team over to NXT. I think NXT could use some tag teams. So I would try to see what kind of tag team I could get. Personally, if I could get it, if the options were available, I would try to get the New Day. I think the New Day are veterans. I think they've been around for a long time. They're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. I know you would say that maybe higher than one of, in your opinion. So if I could get a team like that also has had some issues on the main roster as of late, maybe break them away from there so they don't have to worry about that anymore. I get veteran talent. I get incredibly gifted wrestlers, and I get rid of a problem, and I keep the person whose fault it is that I have the problem out of the building.
Look at that. This is why you will run NXT to the ground. No, I think that's actually a good trade if you were to do that. Although Josh Briggs is collateral damage in this situation, I can't knock the trade, the choice.
He stuck his neck out.
You just
stick your neck out, you get chopped.
Compassion, rookie mistake. Let's talk about rookie mistakes and compassion, because we know now Wes Lee's future. After coming up short of NXT Heatwave in that match against the ruler Obafemi, he had a chance to really set the record straight for what was next for his career. Speculation was swirling, going to the main roster, maybe walking away altogether, but the MSK hit. And not only did Nash Carter, now going by Zachary Wentz, show up, it was Trey Miguel. You know what that means? It's the Rascalz together are now on NXT. This right here was the second most viral moment of the evening, Jack, but what's your takeaway?
I thought this was fantastic. I loved this. This was great timing for Wes. That I get by with a little help from my friends. That's,
you don't have any friends. You're thinking they got for anybody.
I traded them to Raw.
You are a jerk.
So I thought this was fantastic. I think this was exactly what Wesley needed. It was his darkest moment, I think, in his career, maybe since losing his MSK partner. But now he needed friendship. He needed someone to be there for him. And I think the Rascalz were there right on time, the way a good team is. I love that just as someone who's watching, they clarified naming conventions. So now I understand what to say. I think that was very clever, very smart.
It looks like Legal was like, you say it out loud. Go ahead.
Yes.
You two are the Rascalz. You two are MSK.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, not a fan of 3-person groups having a 2-person tag team within the 3-person group go by a different name. I'm looking at you, Outsiders and Wolfpack. I'm looking at you, House of Black and Kings of the Black Throne. I'm looking at all of you guys who have 3 people in the group, but 2 of you are called a different name for a tag team. That bothers me. I don't know why. It just does.
The Outsiders should get a pass. They're the Outsiders first before the NWO.
Well, then if you add one more person, you don't say it, because the original Wolfpack was Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and 6.
Right.
And that was weird. You're adding one person, you change the whole name, but the old name's still there for the other 2. That's weird.
Do you hate rock music too? Because that's all they do.
Do they make rock music anymore?
I don't know, Grandpa. Back when I was a kid, that was rock music and 8-track tapes.
But I do love this. I think that this is something that will be incredible for Wesley. It will reinvigorate him. And obviously, as a fan of talented pro wrestlers, the Rascalz being involved in NXT, I think is a win for everybody. For people who haven't seen the Rascalz, they are fantastic. And adding Wesley to them, that trio, is going to be a lot of fun.
too many apps for my liking. Gallus wasn't a fan of this, and this is why next week the Rascalz will be taking on Gallus in a 6-man tag. And this brings me to a question we got from Haywood Wong. Haywood Wong, a long-term supporter of Draped and Gold, was like, hey, man, this whole thing between NXT and TNA or Impact, Jack, it's gone full swing and full force. Is there any other match that you would want to see TNA and NXT do a crossover with? Did you have anyone at the ready?
There are so many, but I think the big one, the obvious one, I think that we're all looking for, and this is one that I think we all agree on, and it's the one you've probably seen floating around: Josh Matthews versus William Regal. I think that those guys, in a battle of the behind the scenes.
Why would anyone? Like, how is a chess game? Like, how would that even?
Is that not the matchup you were thinking about?
Is that a wrestling match? No.
It's a battle of the microphone, right? Commentary, promos. I think maybe say a War Games.
Yeah,
maybe
squash.
say across the line.
War Games. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but how does he say cross the line?
Oh yeah, you're right.
How does he say bound for glory? Look, this could go a multitude of different ways here. But I think seriously, there's a whole bunch I want to see. I think like a lot of people, something that springs to mind is like Ethan Page versus Moose. Obviously, the two champions going at it stands out to me. I think obviously like a Gresham versus Dempsey. I think two very classic wrestlers grappling would be very fun to see. And Leon Slater, Javon Evans, two very young, high-flying guys, I think would be very exciting. But one that stands out to me, and I think you'll appreciate this, is Danny Luna versus Kaylani Jordan. NXT UK alumni versus Kaylani Jordan, the North American champion. I think that'd be one that I don't think I've seen a lot of people talking about that I'd like to see. I'd love to see Danny Luna in an NXT ring against an NXT champion.
Yeah, you know what? Thanks for the question, Haywood. I would love to have you remember when Mickey James did like the one last rodeo thing?
Yeah.
If Gail Kim got that, I'll be ecstatic, over the moon. That's definitely for me and me alone. I don't think the kids nowadays don't give the respect to Gail Kim. She does. I had Obafemi versus Moose. I thought just the promos alone of just Moose being like, yo, I'm Moose. Like, well, I'm Arula. It'd be kind of fun. And of course, if you are into some hard-hitting action, Savannah Evans against Jaida Parker would be my choice. If they had the Worlds Collide pay-per-view, definitely something I would say.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far you want to go into this, but I mean, there were so many that as I'm thinking about this one, a newer team to TNA, Sinner and Saint versus Axiom and Frazier, two very high-paced, fun teams. But one that I also want to say, Jordan Grace versus Sol Ruka, I think would be very fun to see because both of them are physical specimens, but in very different ways. And so it'd be fun to see how those two match up. And also Josh Alexander, Trick Williams. I think two guys who are very talented in very different ways.
You are the biggest mark for the Welcome Weapon. The biggest.
Well, maybe not the big. Jimmy Corderas is a pretty big fan of Josh
Well, he's Canadian. He gets a pass. That's different.
Right. So, but I'm a big Josh Alexander fan. If he could form a team with someone like Ethan Page, I think they'd be unstoppable.
Wait. that literally happened. that Ethan Page was on, and then they had
TNA. Josh Alexander was never in NXT. I don't know how that could have happened.
Oh, what in the pre-Munster provolone camembert going on? I swear. We got to move on because I'm going to go like snap my neck. All right. So Toronto, Canada, Team Canada get some love here. As you notice on this Heat Wave, it was the first time in Toronto where two Canadian superstars were in a match being refereed by a Canadian ref at the same time from Toronto. But those are now bitter enemies. Carmen Petrovic and Ariana Grace opened up the proceedings in ring this week, and they were friends no more. But Carmen Petrovic obviously got the biggest win of her career. Dare I say upset, because I felt like everyone was backing Ariana going into this one. He doesn't need a sword to make that a possibility. Carmen Petrovic gets the dub. But on top of that, there seems to be a new faction of brewing.
Yeah. First off, Carmen Petrovic should be ashamed of herself.
What?
Absolutely ashamed of the way she's acting. First off, very ungrateful to Ariana Grace. I mean, they both won, and really Ariana Grace did a lot of the work to get there. I mean, she really brought him to the 1 yard line for that win. And Carmen Petrovic trying to act like she did all the work. And then they have this match and she kicks Ariana right in the back, right from behind, like a thief in the night. It's just disgraceful the way Carmen handled herself. I'm very disappointed.
So after the match, Carmen did get beat down by Fallon Henley, who wasn't sanctioned to be in the matchup, with Fallon saying she's sick of rookies. Do you justify or condone these actions?
Yeah, to get a little payback for Ariana Grace. I think Fallon Henley saw what I saw, and now that she's away from her rancher ways, she realizes that this isn't appropriate.
What is she doing now? She's not a rancher. What's she doing? Because she's dressed like a cow. I don't mean literally. She's just wearing spot. Hey, don't get me canceled.
Whoa.
She's literally. She has cow print tights. That's what I'm saying. Hey, don't cut me off. No, I'm driving here, Jack. If she's not a rancher, what is she doing now?
She's always been a bartender. That's always been her thing.
She had a whole year ago. She had a ranch, and you had this whole thing about hating ranches.
It's horrible. Yeah, ranches are the worst.
But you're saying she's left the ranch and now she's a bartender?
Let me tell you, I think she realized what a lot of people realize. Have you ever heard of the dating site Farmers Only?
No. Why would I know about? I'm from Brooklyn, Jack. Why would I know about Farmers Only?
It's a dating website where you can find someone to be with who is a farmer. Have you ever heard of the show Farmer Wants a Wife? It's a show where people compete to be with a farmer. You know why none of these are Rancher Wants a Wife or Ranchers Only? Because nobody wants a rancher. And that's what Fallon Henley realized. And that is what has changed her life around.
Wow. She saw the error of her ways. A dating site and a dating show. She was like, to get the boys, I need to become not a rancher anymore.
She just realized she didn't want to be something for the same reason no one else wants to. Wanted to be the backbone of America.
Okay. It looks like Fallon Henley is
this is a good analytical show.
Hey, you know what? We got one award. That's all we need. Just one. It's going to be award winning forever.
We scammed them good.
Shock to the biddies. All right. So Fallon Henley seems to be aligning herself with Jasmine Nix and JC Jane. Question for you, though. Not so much in NXT, but in pro wrestling overall. Are you suffering from faction bloat?
There can be a bit, yes. I feel the same way about factions that I do about titles. And there's no such thing as the right number of how many you should or should not have, but I need to know reasons. I want to know why this is a group. I want to know why they came together. So far, I'm here for Jasmine, Fallon, and JC. I'm here for this. I like seeing this. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. Some factions, and we don't need to get into naming names, some feel a little bit like I don't really understand the purpose of this group anymore.
Like the Shield. I'm just kidding. Everyone loves the Shield, except for me.
Why don't you like the Shield?
You know what? You know how people just didn't took to Cena? To me, the Shield always felt like, yeah, they were together, and yeah, everyone broke off and became champions, and that's why they're great, I guess. But when people put them as the best faction of all time, it's just something, my spidey sense tingles. I don't have a reason that they suck or anything, but they're together for such a short amount of time. They really were kind of for hire. If the APA is not in that group, in that conversation, why the Shield is, I don't know.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but they're great. I think they're great. I don't think they're the greatest of all time. I think you've got two others that are ahead of them that I'd put that you can't argue. But you want me to say which they are?
Yes.
I say the NWO is number one because it's the only, it changed the game. I mean, it's the only stable that was so big and mighty that they actually put the name of the stable in the branding of the company, WCW/NWO. They had their own pay-per-views. I mean, come on, how do you top that? But also the next one, and if you argue this was number one, I'd be okay with it, is Evolution, because it told an entire story as a stable. It had a beginning, middle, and end in itself, and every single person from that became successful as well. All Hall of Famers.
Dumb question. Do you consider WWE's Evolution and TNA/Impact's Fortunes Four Horsemen or no?
No.
Okay, fair enough. That's definitely a cause for debate, but I agree with you wholesale.
Yeah. I know some people do. I don't. I don't
because Ric Flair was like, we are the Four Horsemen, but we're going to call it Fortune, and so that like muddies the waters. But I never considered them the same.
I love Rick, but I also feel like sometimes you gotta. His quotes don't stand quite the same as other people's quotes.
Wow, Jack, I'm saving you from yourself, Rick. That's all on me, baby. All right, we gotta move on. Ric Flair's gonna unfollow the show because he's actually in the chat sometimes.
He is.
So what's up with
Sorry, Rick? I love you.
No, he doesn't. What's up with Rich Holland, man? Just going in there, making matches for the whole group. The hell, Duke Hudson, is he helping out Chase U? Because even Andre Chase is like, "What are you doing, Rich? What?"
As soon as I thought that Ridge bringing evidence to a crime scene was the dumbest thing he could do, he goes and sets up a match with Oba Femi. What the heck? Why do you have this
title opportunity?
Why do you have this guy around? This is a nightmare. Get away. If I was in Chase U, I would no longer be in Chase U because Ridge Holland is too close. Look, even if you're Andre Chase and you still want this whole group to be together, you've got to absolutely burn this to the ground. You got to get away from this. You need a what do they call a poltergeist cleanser to come through and like
the little thing they have.
Smudge you guys, get rid of this. This is dangerous. I mean, again, evidence. Oba Femi, like and by the way, I'm a day one Duke Hudson fan. I'm supporting
day one.
This guy.
That's my next question, actually.
I have been with him, and I'm proud of him for standing up. Don't think it was very smart. It should have been a letter of apology to Oba Femi and saying that, unfortunately, you will not be able to make your present engagement and no longer have the match. That's the only way you're surviving, Duke Hudson. Get out of there. What are you doing? Run. Run.
Duke Hudson.
Maybe the Wyatt Six can kill you. Do something safer than getting in the ring with Oba Femi.
You know what? I would love to see that. Just someone like Snow Angel in the parking lot. Please beat me up. Someone injure me. Please. I got a match over Femi. Okay.
Wyatt Six, please come get me, please.
Take me away. All right, so Ridge Holland sets up a match with Thea Hale against Izzy Dame with NXT Women's Champion implications. Thea Hale gets the win. Oba Femi, respectfully, is probably at home, like, eating the carcass of a wild beast, is getting called and said, you have a match next week, and goes out there and goes, yo, how dare you? I'm going to tear you limb from limb. But Duke Hudson, your boy, the poker guy, the 6'5" Brendan Vink, says, hey, look, I'm going to take it to you. Now, I would say, despite the fact that Ridge Holland made a grave mistake, this was the best I've seen of Duke Hudson in almost 2 years. Fact or fiction?
Fact. Duke Hudson's a star. He's talented. He's very good on a microphone. He's very confident in who he is. He's also very talented in the ring. I think he'll do a great job with Oba Femi. And I think that he can do a lot of great things. But Oba Femi is someone that you just do not get in front of right now. Oba Femi is someone you just don't mess with right now. I mean, Duke. Brandon, let me use your government name. Don't do this. We don't want to lose you. I'm looking out for you, man. Come on. Be safe. Just be safe, okay?
I just imagine 2 weeks from now, Ava's like, and next week we're going to have the Duke Hudson Memorial Tournament live. Duke was tragically lost.
How great would it be? It's a trophy that's a picture of Duke holding the trophy.
That'd be kind of cool, actually. So meta. Shout out to Marvin B, who's watching from France, his way back from work. It's probably 8 hours ahead over there, man, like 6 or 7 o'clock.
Oh, thank you, Marvin. Thank you.
Yeah, man, this is showing that we're global. So take that, Belgium. We're off your charts this week. I don't like this.
Yeah, that's at least one person in France watching. So America, you've got some work to do to catch up.
Can we talk about America for a second? Just a second.
Should we?
I mean, yeah, exactly. The problem with farm subsidies in Kansas now. We had a Heritage Cup match, and it was Lexis King against Tony D'Angelo. And we talked about this yesterday on the Wrestling Inc. NXT After Show. The chat was confused about the Heritage Cup rules and that kind of thing. But the way this match happened or got promoted was during the American holiday break of Independence Day, you have both Lexus King and Tony D'Angelo both scantily clad saying, I want to fight you. It looks like it was kind of almost too American for my blood. Heritage Cup match, though, happened with your boy Eddie Thorpe on the 1s and 2s, and we have ourselves not a new winner, but Tony D'Angelo retaining. I don't know, man. We talked about the Heritage Cup, and the sheen could be lost a bit, but having guys in tank tops and not wearing shirts, doing vertical videos, being like, see you next Tuesday, seems kind of like, oh, kind of lame, even for the Cup. Thoughts?
Would you have preferred they dressed like cows, Flobo?
Yes, I love cows and eating wild beef. That's what I want. Oh, be a Tuesday, you know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying here, and it does. You know, I love me the Heritage Cup, but it does feel like maybe this wasn't its finest moment. In that Lexus King had to stand up on his own against all these people on the outside with no one there to help him, no one there to support him. I think it just showed how disrespected the Heritage Cup has become since Tony D'Angelo's taken it.
Eddie Thorpe came down there to support Lexus King. You didn't see that? They were talking about music 2 weeks ago. Eddie Thorpe loves his jams. He wasn't doing it for the Don. The Don has his own symphony in his theme song. Thorpe wasn't.
Then why did he remix the Don's theme song at the end?
I mean, you know, as a DJ, you always have things ready. When they say one more song, just boom.
That's true. That's true. I think Eddie Thorpe should be up there for every match. I want to hear him spin during the matches. I want to hear some fun songs and hear him bring some fire beats, as the DJ said. Some sick mixes, some raw style.
I was with you, but then I thought about it overnight. I go, that's the most, hey, what the kids are into? Music? Yeah. I've ever heard in my life. Having a live DJ between Wrestling Society X, you know what I'm saying?
Wrestling Society X was sick. I love
20 years ago it was. It would not fly today.
Lucha Underground was sick.
10 years ago, it would not fly today.
Raw Underground was sick.
That never flew. Shut up. Okay, so my Heritage Cup lamenting aside, Tony D'Angelo successfully retains his cup. He may be the most impactful Heritage Cup champion. If you're the Don, though, there must be a thirst for more gold, right?
I mean, I would disagree on most impactful champion. I mean, Noam Dar, I think, is the most impactful champion. Not only was he the longest reigning Heritage Cup champion, but he also brought it stateside. He took it to the moon. He really expanded the reach.
Wait a minute, the moon. Cup. I just got that. Wait a minute. That's like a delayed joke. Wait a minute.
It takes a long time for it to get here from the moon. Yeah. Does he want more gold? I think if he does, that's a problem. I mean, he's got the Heritage Cup. He should be focused on that. He should be focused on defending that in more places. And there's a lot of people who don't know the rules. I put that on Tony D'Angelo's shoulders. He needs to be an ambassador for that championship.
Speaking of people that were former champs, the North Quarter Catch Crew killed one of their own again. I understand.
Again?
Yeah, allegedly. Look, I understand. If you want to peel back the curtain, Damon Kip has said on Twitter he's going to move on to Greater Pastures, but the fictional version is removed from life. What's going on with North Quarter Catch Crew? Can you just talk things out?
I think it's interesting that as they're saying mistakes won't be tolerated, they were making a mistake in being caught by Rankowski on the outside.
Hey, it's Ren Sinclair.
Ren Sinclair. I apologize. Sorry, you're right. Yes, Ren Sinclair. I mean, speaking of mistakes, these guys. I think Dempsey is a talented guy. Dempsey is someone who I think should be feared across all pro wrestling, but I think he's trying to remember his old leader back in NXT UK, and he's trying to be like Teomon and trying to be that kind of leader, but you need Teomon to do that. You need him there to be that guy. He needs to get back with that kind of person. Maybe bring him in over from NXT UK to help lead this faction, lead this group, because things just, it's a little too rough, a little too fast and loose for my taste.
What is missing, though? Everyone tells me Charlie Dempsey is a future. Everyone tells me he's a good grappler. You went to Japan this year or end of last year to fight on behalf of NXT, but everyone also says the North Quarter Catch Crew is missing something. What is that in your opinion?
It's leadership. It's missing strong leadership. And sometimes you can be very talented at what you do, but that doesn't mean you're the guy to be the leader of the group. I look at a lot of different groups. Obviously, Batista had a great career. We talked about Evolution earlier, but Batista's not the leader of an Evolution. There's a very different kind of person. I think Randy Orton is one of the greatest of all time. And yes, he was the leader of Legacy, but that's not exactly what he's most known for, is it? He's a kind of guy who needs to be on his own, or if he's a part of a group. I think you need that Tiamat. I think you need someone to come in and be the true leader of this group to help it stand out and help it be something bigger than it is, so that they can grow and be successful instead of murdering their own their own people.
Allegedly.
I mean, if you're the other guys, how are you not looking at each other like, are we going to be in the trunks?
Yeah, if you're Miles Bourne, I think he had the most pause because he's seen it happen at least twice. Yeah,
he's done it twice.
Yeah. What are you doing? That's a hot take getting Tiamat in. I would say because whether or not you like the family, you did feel something about. They were called the family for those who don't know. If you didn't like the family, you felt something about them. Either you were like Jack, who thought they're the best thing ever, or you're like, I hope somebody gives them their comeuppance. But yeah, their Quarter Catch Crew feels like it's a gym that doesn't have classes anymore. Like, how are you still in business?
Right. And again, I've said before, there's a little too much similarity in the group. They are diversifying it a bit more now. They've definitely got someone who feels a little bit more power related, someone who feels a little bit more technical, someone who feels a bit more classic pro wrestler. But I always feel every group, if you're going to put a group together, you need one big man and you need one cruiser right off the bat. And then you need a leader. And if you don't have those, then it's always going to feel like you're missing something. Unless there are some exceptions to the rule, obviously. But
see, even proof that the Shield's lame. Elsewhere,
they had you had the big man in Roman, and you had the cruiser in Dean Ambrose. Clearly a cruiserweight.
And Rollins too, just this flippy stuff.
He was the middle guy. He was the leader.
That is not cruiser. Every time you sling blade, someone weeps. Let's talk about the two tag teams that people seem to be confusing online. OTM and Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe. So with Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe first. They had a match against Gallus. And Gallus gets the dub. Even though Tyson and Tyreek made the grave mistake of wearing Timberlands in 2024, they did show them their mettle pretty well. What's Gallus's beef, though? It feels like they're fighting everyone, backstage, in front of stage, but they don't get wings strung together, even though they got the dub.
Well, first off, I think that this was a good win for Gallus, a good, fair win for them. I know a lot of people are, they're wringing their hands and clutching their pearls over Joe Coffey on the outside, pulling down the rope. But guess what? That's what happens when you attack three guys from behind. You're going to have to deal with all three of them. I think that Tyson and Tariq brought this on themselves. I think that this was a forced error on their part, and that's why they took the L here. But you're right. Gallus needs to find a way to string together more wins against veteran teams, because this is Tyson and Tariq, still a very new, still a very young team. And so getting a win, they're tough. They're going to be great. But I want to see them get some wins over some veterans, get some wins over guys who are in title contention.
If you are the GM or the head of talent there on NXT, you have Tyson and Tariq, what's missing from them as a team?
I think a voice. I think something that tells us who they are beyond just what they're doing in the ring and beyond the Timberlands they're wearing on their feet. They need something to tell me beyond. This is a world where in NXT, everyone's a great athlete. Everyone's strong. Everyone's fast. But what makes you stand out? And it's going to take more than a tire. I know we saw a video package a few weeks ago talking about how they liked biology. But
2 months now.
2 months now. That's not enough for me to really grasp on to who you are. And I think that Hank and Tank, for instance, they may not get a lot of wins, but I get it. They're the underdogs who are just happy to be there, trying to do their best. I get that. I don't know what Tyson and Tariq are.
Yeah, I think you get one every 2 years, but Hank and Tank are like the stay hype team. Get hype, stay hype. Remember
right.
Mojo Rawley?
Yes. Yeah. Mojo in the mirror for a while before the end.
Oh, yeah, with the blue face paint or blue ink. I don't know what's going on with that. But the team they usually get confused for, OTM, has their own voice. It's Miss Parker. They had a match with the OC, and things broke down quickly with Michin and Jaida Parker getting involved. You could tell this battle isn't over, but OTM gets the win and pin clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring. Now, I tossed my broadcast colleague George for most of this. Even though beating a veteran team like the OC is fantastic, the OC of now wasn't the OC of 3 years ago. Is that really much an upset, judging by the way OTM won this week?
I don't know if I'd call it an upset, but I would say it was a must-win situation for OTM. Could you imagine what would have happened if they lost, if they had to face Jaida Parker after losing? Jaida Parker is someone who you do not want to come back to with bad news. You do not want her to look at you and be like, listen, I'm getting wins. I'm out there with you. You're making me look bad. I think that this was something that I believe that after that 3 count was counted and OTM had to win, I believe they both let out a huge sigh of relief. Like, oh my God, thank goodness we don't have to deal with an angry Jaida Parker. Michin, what are you doing? Stay away from Jaida Parker. I already gave you the same speech I gave Duke Hudson. Get away. Stay away.
This is Michin, though. Michin means crazy, I think, or unhinged, or like it means like one of those words. Like she should be the wild person going after people.
Listen, there's crazy and there's dumb. Get away. Stay away from Jaida Parker. She's gonna kill you. She's gonna kill you. Stay away. But I look at Jaida Parker and OTM, and I think that's one of the differences that OTM has right now is they have that voice. They have Jaida Parker. I am not someone that thinks everybody needs a manager or needs a third person with them. So I don't think that Tyson Tariq necessarily need a person to be their voice. Sure. But that's a good example. Jaida Parker adds that voice to OTM that they otherwise maybe wouldn't have.
I got 3 quick questions for you. These burning questions, things I've noticed when I was watching the show. Maybe you could help me out with. OTM, they've been together for about a year now. Lucian Price, Brock Onima, they are lifelong friends, but some people were kind of complaining about the mismatch of ring attire. Does that matter to you? And if you had a choice of it being more uniform, what would you do?
Oh, I'm old school. I always want my tag teams to look uniform. I always want them to dress the same. That's my old school style. I'm sure the kids with their broccoli top haircuts and their weird clothes probably like it when it's all mixed match. But I like my tag teams to dress the same, look the same. Now, one of you could wear the different types of tights, but I want the colors to be the same, and I like to look similar.
Oh, fair enough. So more like Lucian or more like Bronco? Or something different?
Well, again, I'm old school. I want you to wear wrestling gear. I want you to wear tights. I want you to wear trunks or something. This coming in off the street just in your regular clothes. Well, what is this? We're professionals here.
I'm Team Lucian as well, even though now Lucian looks like Trick Williams. It's a weird thing, but I actually like the fact that the trunks. I like square trunks. I'm just an old school in that case. Square trunks, some kick pads, call it a day.
Love it.
Elsewhere in the women's division, Fallon Henley had a match against Sol Ruca, and was also attacked by Jasmine Nix and JC Jane afterwards with the factions brewing. But Sol Ruca hasn't won a match in a week in 2 attempts, even though this one was by DQ. Should we be worried about Sol Ruca, or is this going to be just a small hiccup on the road to greatness?
I mean, yeah, we almost got to see. I was disappointed about the end of this because you're right. We almost got to see someone kick out of the Soul Snatcher, and that would have been really cool to see Fallon Henley do that. But unfortunately, things didn't happen that way, and the match got thrown out and it was a DQ. I don't think Sol Ruca needs to worry. Sol Ruca's a superstar. She's going to find a way to start getting wins. She can do things in that ring no one else can do, and in NXT, that's really saying something. She's going to be just fine.
She's fine. She's all right. Also this week, warring assistant general managers Stevie Turner and Mr. Stone make 2 really distinct signings, Cedric Alexander and Ashanti the Adonis. Now, these 2 men were in a tag team on the main roster, but it's implied these are separate signings. Is this a good move for NXT, keeping these men separate?
Keeping them separate. I was just so excited they were going to be on NXT. I'm a big fan of both of them. I've been a huge fan of Cedric Alexander for a very long time. since his 205 Live days. I remember seeing him there and being blown away by how talented he was. So I'm very excited that he has an opportunity to do well. And Ashanti the Adonis, obviously, really one of the talents that came out of a group like Hit Row. So great to see Ashanti the Adonis back. I was just excited they're there, but together or separate, I think they should get back together as a tag team, because I do feel like the tag team division is wide open right now. There's a lot of opportunity there. So if I'm them, I'd be looking at teaming up again also.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think they work better together. I think they also complement each other, because Ashanti's more of a personality, and Cedric, as it is right now, is really more of the moves and holds guy. But gotta give a shout out to Marvin Bees and to add a burning question of their own. Do you think Jaida wins the North American Championship or the NXT Championship first?
The way she's going, I got a feeling she has NXT Championship written in her future more so than the North American Championship. I think Kaylani Jordan's going to have that championship for a long time. And so I don't see anyone taking it from her anytime soon. And I see Jaida Parker being a champion much sooner than that.
Is that a problem for the North American title division? It looks like Roxanne Perez doesn't really have an opponent lined up or a number 2 contender at all, even though the North American title division seems to be almost crowded.
Well, this is the championship is still new, the North American Championship. So we're still settling the dust on who is in which division. And I know there's not a true line between this division and that division, but we're still letting the dust settle. We're still figuring out which side people are going to be on, where people are going to land. So right now it's a little messy, but that's to be expected whenever you create a new championship. So it's still early enough that I don't think it's an issue. I'm sure that it'll all work itself out.
I mean, did we see Roxanne Perez and or Lola Vice this week? I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. Just saying. Well, maybe Roxanne Perez knew that Jaida Parker was in the building.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would definitely run Jaida Parker, Open Family. Who's the third toughest person in NXT? Used to be Joe Gacy. Who would you want to avoid? Guess Wendy Chu. Who the top 3 we want to avoid in NXT? You'd be like,
Joe Gacy. You want to avoid Joe Gacy for different reasons, because he was a nut job. Dijak was also someone who was always very, very tough. Yeah, that's a good question. Who would be the next toughest person? I guess I'd have to say, I don't know. Maybe Tony D'Angelo's a tough guy. Very few people have been able to put him down without a lot of help.
I would try to avoid Luca Crucifino, because if he beats me up, no one will believe me. Wait, a lawyer kicked your head? But no, they're really tough, man.
Yeah, and even if you won, he'd sue you.
Right. Hey, it's a lose-lose for Filipito. You got to write this down before we do. Now time for our favorite segment of the show. It's the MVP of NXT. The MVP of NXT is Jack. Who really stuck out for anyone this week's show? But we had Joe Hendry, we had the Rascalz, we had Opa Femi and Duke Hudson having an exchange of words. We have Brooks Jensen beating up the former number 1 contender. A lot of candidates in the mix. So, Jack, let me ask you, who is your MVP of NXT?
I got to go with Wes Lee. I think that Wes Lee was someone who turned his fortune around completely this week. I think he's someone who really could have found himself leaving NXT altogether, but now seems stronger than ever. And I think he's got friends around him and a group around him that'll make him a better version of himself than we've ever seen before. And that's including the version that was once considered one of the greatest North American champions of all time. So Wes Lee, I think, is skyrocketing right now.
I don't disagree. My choice this week has to be All Ego Ethan Page. Here is somebody which, even though I correctly predicted him winning, the way he won was giving me a little bit of pause, but you really need something to stabilize that men's division. Ethan Page has done that. Of course, it's the whole thing we talk about in wrestling, about betting on yourself and what that means, but you can't argue. You go to your new job, and in 40 days, you're employee of the month. Well, that's the MVP, point blank with the bullet. Ethan Page, All Ego, and that theme song is my MVP this week.
Ego.
See, Gallus, theme songs matter.
Yeah.
Jack, you are a busy man. Well, what are you doing in July?
Well, it's July. What am I doing today? I'm going to be covering AEW Dynamite on WWENXT, so you can check that out. That's always a fun show, always crazy. I'm going to be joined by George Hermosa, as well as legendary Hall of Fame referee, someday Hall of Fame referee, Jimmy Corderas. I mean, I just say Hall of Fame whatever because it's shocking that he's not in already. And we're going to chat about all that on Wrestling Inc. I'm also going to be covering SmackDown on Wrestling Inc. this week on Friday. So that should be a fun time. Are you on Friday SmackDown?
I think I am. I've got a lame. Hey, listen, Flo, we're going a different direction, a Jack direction. So pack your stuff. get the heck out of here. But Wrestling Inc., thanks so much for featuring us, even though I should be featured a lot more.
Yeah, well, you can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. And the big thing I'm doing this month is going to be on July 27th. It's the LA Rumble. If you're in Southern California, hit me up. I'd love for you to be there in person. It's 30 people fighting, with the winner getting a chance at the Santino Brothers Championship. It's basically the Royal Rumble. You know how it works. That's what we're doing. 30 people are going to be in it. And if you're not there live, it's going to be streaming live on YouTube, so you can check that out for free. And I'm going to be calling the action on commentary, so you'll get to hear me saying, "What a maneuver!" over and over again.
Wow, just all the phrase. Spoiler alert, there'll be maneuvers at the LA Drapedingold.com. This show has grown by leaps and bounds because a couple of us losers were like, you know what? We want to make fun of the show, but a show we love so much. And they said, what are you doing? Podcasters talking about wrestling? That's crazy, but it would mean the world to us if you drop us a 5-star podcast review on that Apple, on that Spotify, and that Google Apple Play thing that has in the middle, and YouTube if you're on it as well. We're always here every Wednesday to break down NXT in a unique way, and I have to deal with this guy.
You sure do.
We'll be back next Wednesday to break down all that's happening in NXT and the Ego era, or the era of Ego, depending on who you ask. But until that time, Tech Farmer, say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.